Hey folks, welcome back. Time for another look at the Doctor Who RPG. This is still the first edition, the Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space role-playing game, before the 1.5 edition sort of rebrand to just Doctor Who RPG. But all of this stuff is cross-compatible, so you can go ahead and buy this book and pair it with the 1.5e hardcover, or even the second edition with some minor modifications. So don't be afraid of buying anything and having it be a waste of space. Everything will work with everything else. But this book is basically for those people who picked up the box set and thought, you know what, it's going to be really hard to come up with a way to have a Doctor playable in my party without everybody fighting about it, or they just want to sort of avoid that whole problem entirely, or they don't want the game to revolve around the Doctor in the same way that the show does. This book is called Defending the Earth, the UNIT Sourcebook, and it's about precisely that. It's about UNIT. So this is, as we'll see on the back here, there's some nice description here. So, front and center soldier, you're part of UNIT now, the Unified Intelligence Task Force. We are the Earth's best defense against the myriad alien forces who would try to subjugate and conquer our planet. It's not an easy job, and even those recruited for their scientific knowledge can find themselves on the front lines of combat against almost unstoppable foes. We will protect humanity from extra-dimensional terrors or die trying. Defending the Earth, the UNIT Sourcebook is an expansion book for the Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space role-playing game. Within it, you'll get a history of UNIT, rules for creating UNIT characters, including new traits and areas of expertise, expanded firearms and combat rules, which is interesting, including mass battles, details on major unit personnel, so some stat blocks for people like the legendary Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, 2 new adventures, and more. So it's pretty good. So if you want to have a very different focus to your Doctor Who campaign, where you're playing regular Earthlings who have taken up the mantle of trying to defend the Earth from the gribbly monsters that the Doctor deals with on the regular, and this is the source book for you. It's also good if you want to have a party of people who are kind of on the same level. You don't have one character who is a amazing Time Lord genius from beyond space and time paired with a bunch of regular people. So it's a good thing to have in the line for sure. And I will say up front, I got this fairly recently, so consider this kind of a more of a first impressions video. I have had a look through it, but I've not done enough with it to do a full review, so we'll just kind of discover it together a little bit. So nothing much to say about the end papers, which are blank. So we'll look at the TOC. We've got a welcome to UNIT, a little bit about how to use this book and who UNIT are generally, about 10 or 12 pages on the history of UNIT, and then modern UNIT. So I guess that will be how they've evolved since I think they were introduced in the 70s in the original series, something like that. Then we have some UNIT personnel, so this will be, I'm presuming, building your characters, and there's some name characters as well. Then UNIT tactics, so this is your expanded battlefield rules. Covering up, so this is covering up, I guess, alien incursions so that people don't get panicked. Game mastering UNIT, so how to fit with themes. UNIT campaigns. UNIT crisis generator, that's pretty handy. Populating your adventures with personnel. And then some UNIT adventures for the remainder of the book. So it's quite a lot of dense rules content as well as some adventure content, which is really nice. It's a 160-page hardcover, by the way, in the usual high standards that Cubicle 7 provides. And as always, we've got lots of beautiful pictures from the show to sort of get you into the vibe. So here we have a sort of first-person written introduction to UNIT. Everyone joins the service to give something back to their country, to their people. You joined up because you wanted to be a part of something bigger than you, because you wanted to serve and protect. I'm about to offer you the chance to do this on an entirely new level. So basically they're demonstrating that UNIT is there to deal with threats well beyond what a normal military unit would deal with. So how to use this book. Not all adventures need a doctor's chap and a little blue box to get them started. Life on Earth can be an adventure too, and when it comes to protecting the Earth from alien threat, UNIT is the first line of defense. They've been protecting the planet since the 70s, I was right about that, and are striding into the 21st century well prepared to face the future. In this book, you'll look at how you can use UNIT as an organization in your Doctor Who game, including new rules to help you create characters that work for the task force, and new combat rules for fighting as a military organization, be it just a soldier on his own with his regulation pistol, or an entire squad of UNIT soldiers fighting off the advancing Cyberman army. Then we have information on the history of UNIT, and UNIT's most fearsome foes, ranging from the robotic Yeti, which stalked the London Underground, to more recent enemies such as the Sontarans, or the few members of the Swarm that made it through a wormhole and out into the night sky. If you're already playing the Doctor, then your characters may run into UNIT from time to time, so you can also use this book as kind of a source of background NPCs and interesting adventures combining forces with UNIT. The task force investigates strange events and alien sightings across the world. While it's rare for a UNIT officer to go traveling in the TARDIS, it's not unheard of, especially if the TARDIS is in a random mood and decides to go off on an extended series of trips before returning to the modern day. Even if you don't have any UNIT player characters, you can have allies and friends in the task force. So, making the case that it's good to have this book in your arsenal even if you don't choose to have UNIT player characters. You can also have a mixed group of UNIT and civilian characters. You could have all UNIT all the time, so where every character is a part of UNIT, which is what I kind of suggested if the Doctor and Companions mode doesn't work for your group. And then we have some information about the roster of UNIT, which will be expanded on later in the book, and of course, classic enemies. So there you go. So in the unit history, I'm not going to get too in-depth into this. I think it'd be more interesting to discover on your own. Also, it's written in a kind of unconventional way. We've got little bits of confidential messages, handwritten stuff before we get into a more straightforward narrative. So we have formation of UNIT, and then their encounters with the Doctor early on. Then we have some histories about their encounters with various races, some notes about the Silurians, who have their own book, by the way, which we'll look at. They are the dinosaur-related race that used to rule the planet way back in the day. Then we have the arrival of the Master. Of course, it's a big moment in Doctor Who history. Some extra side notes here on UNIT and their relationship to national governments. So it's a tangled one. So there's supposed to be local UNIT forces reporting to a national HQ. The national HQ reports to the World HQ in Geneva, and Geneva ultimately reports to the United Nations. In practice, though, UNIT draws many of its troops from the armed forces of the host nations. This means that a national government can exert considerable unofficial influence over the UNIT troops in their country. It's not as straightforward as the hierarchical organization of it would suggest. Got some great old school pictures of Doctor Who monsters in here. Gotta love that. They're just hiding around the corner from the Daleks. It's quite funny. Now we have the regeneration and a new era. I'm not the most knowledgeable about Doctor Who history, so I'll have to go through this at some later point. So then we have things happening in late 76, some key battles, and then the 21st century was to be a period of huge change. The UN decided they should dissociate themselves from the activities of UNIT and change the name of the task force. The name became the Unified Intelligence Task Force, and UNIT became a worldwide brand. The uniform was changed as well, all countries now sporting black utility outfits topped by a red beret bearing the UNIT logo. Around this time, with Colonel Mace taking charge of the task force, UNIT began to change its approach once more. Not all aliens come to Earth to invade or harvest its resources. Some merely want to observe or learn, and UNIT became, at least at the point of first contact, much less aggressive. Okay, so this is the reintroduction of UNIT into the modern-day Doctor Who storyline. It's pretty cool. So now we're seeing pictures from the more modern-day series. That looks like it might be the back of David Tennant's head. We see Catherine Tate over there. We see some Sontarans. And I believe UNIT was the basis maybe for the Torchwood spin-off, if I'm not mistaken. All right, now we have a whole bunch of stuff on modern UNIT. So we've gone through the history. So under the revised charter, UNIT has responsibility for planetary defense. The heads of UNIT hold a great deal of power and can overrule the governing body of a country if they believe that it is in the interest of the planet's ultimate safety. UNIT also has access to missile launch codes, including the codes to weaponry based in individual countries, although these are only to be used in dire emergencies. Wow. So there's still an HQ in Geneva, but they have headquarters in several countries. Some countries, such as Britain or the US, have more than one regional base. These bases oversee more local operations. So they kind of function as independent offices. So we have HQs in London, New York, Hong Kong, Sydney, Moscow, Johannesburg, and Antarctica as well. Then there's some info here about which facility you should choose. So basically you can create a UNIT installation designed for a certain type of purpose to help guide the shape of your campaign. So it could be a military operation, it could be a scientific facility, it could be an administrative, bureaucratic place, or it could be a showcase, so press and publicity forum to show off what UNIT does. And how big is the base? So when choosing base traits below, which determine the features and capabilities of the base, the size of the base determines the number of base points you have to spend. Oh, so there's a base building aspect in this as well. I love that. And we'll talk a lot more about that feature in RPGs during my series of videos I got planned on superhero RPGs, where base building is often a big part of it. It can be quite complicated. Giving players a base of operations is a fantastic way to give them a sort of sense of presence and an interest in maintaining the status quo in the world, and makes them feel at home in the fiction that you've created. So having that in this UNIT Sourcebook I think is really great. So depending on the size, you get your base traits that you can buy with points. So the size and importance of the base affects the number of story points, as we've seen. So story point traits. Some of these base traits say this trait gives 3 story points that can only be spent on blah blah blah, and indicate some particular type of skill check. These points can be spent by anyone included in the organization, including NPCs. Good base traits improve your base and give it added capabilities. And so we have a list here of good base traits, which include things like advanced tech, alien gadgets, again with asterisk to indicate that it can be taken more than once, database access, medics, defense systems, minions, fortified, landing base, troops, computing power, holding cells, secret base. And then bad base traits include things like having an alien threat, it's an isolated place, maybe there's a traitor on board, or there's a dangerous experiment going on, the managers are in something terrible, you have unreliable resources, a dark secret, you're on a space-time rift. Sounds rough. Okay, so we'll look at what some of these mean. Advanced tech. You have a piece of advanced human-built technology, perhaps one that has been reverse-engineered from alien sources. Examples include the turbofans that keep the Valiant aloft, or the experimental teleporters of Project Indigo. So you can discuss with the GM what sort of advanced tech the base base has. You got two options. Either it's a 1-point gadget that everyone in the team is assigned, or a 4-point gadget that's built into the base. You can take this trait more than once. Each time it gives you a different form of advanced tech. So you can spend more points to give everybody one small thing, or give one big thing to the base if you get a second time, that kind of stuff. Alien gadget, you've got a thing. It glows and is covered in weird alien symbols and strange lights. You're not sure how it works, but it sometimes comes in handy. You're under orders to study it and eventually reverse engineer it. The gadget has a strange power or ability that is partially under your control. So this is a 4-point or more personal gadget. It could be an alien weapon or a spaceship, or something more elaborate and impressive like a time-agent vortex manipulator or a salvaged alien AI. It's completely beyond our understanding. Cool. Armory, so you can get any weapons you need easily. Without this trait, your base has only a limited number of conventional firearms and other equipment. You can have database access. You're connected to the UNIT Worldwide Database. You get 3 story points every game session that can only be spent on research and related activities. You could spend the story points to get extra dice to succeed at a really difficult knowledge roll, or spend them to declare you got a copy of some vital document or map in the archives. That's cool. Computing power is similar. You get 3 story points every game session that can only be spent on technology-related roles, like hacking into another computer system or performing some complex computer modeling to solve a problem. You can have defense systems. You might have anti-aircraft missile launchers, be surrounded by anti-tank landmines. Could have lasers to shoot down spacecraft, or teleport jammers to stop Sontaran commandos from blipping into the middle of your HQ. Oh, that's very useful. In game terms, you pick one form of attack. The base provides a +8 bonus to offense or defense against that form of attack, or reduces enemy mobility by -8 if they're using a particular form of transport. You can choose to split this bonus to give a smaller bonus to both offense and defense if you want, as long as it adds up to +8. For example, a base equipped with anti-aircraft missiles might also be hardened against attack from above, giving it a +4 bonus to offense and defense against air attack. And of course, you can take this more than once. Each time it applies a different sort of attack. You can be fortified, so your base gives a +6 to defense when it's directly attacked. You got holding cells for prisoners. Any captured aliens cannot escape without outside help or really cunning plans. Internal sensors, so you get 3 story points every adventure that can only be spent on awareness-related roles and related activities, like picking up a transmission or noticing an intruder. Or you can have a lab, which gives you 3 story points that can only be spent on science-related roles, like analyzing biological materials or building gadgets. Landing pad could be an airstrip or a helipad with a hangar. It has a landing facilities and a number of aircraft. Pick one sort of aircraft from helicopters, small planes, cargo planes, or fighter jets. You can take it straight more than once. Each time pick another kind of aircraft. Awesome. Emergency lockdown protocol. So if you activate lockdown, nothing can escape the base using conventional means. Lockdown also means the base has its own internal air supply, which can come in handy if the whole building is abducted by Jadoon. Medic. So this trait gets 3 story points that can be spent on medicine-related roles. You can also spend these story points to restore attribute points lost by damage. Each spent point restores half the total of lost points rounding up. The player can decide how these points are allocated between the damaged attributes. Cool. Mobile base. This is great. The base is a giant vehicle. Some mobile bases are small enough to fit into the cargo hold of an aircraft. Other bases might be on board a ship or consist of a fleet of road vehicles. At the top end of this scale, you've got bases like the Valiant. You can also have minions, so they could be research staff, security force, or other assistants. You have a team of up to 6 people reporting directly to you. You pick the type of minions when you take this trait and can take different types of minions each time. Secret base. So your base is cleverly concealed, and the effect is finding the base if you don't know it's there is almost impossible. Even if an advanced enemy is scanning for the base, the characters have several minutes to prepare before they're discovered. A secure base, it's very hard to sneak into your base. It's not impossible, but if someone gets past security, the GM should throw the group a story point each. Oh. Training. So as a group, you receive 3 bonus story points every adventure that can be used by a character in any situation where their physical or martial training may be of benefit. Troop barracks. You get a large supply of manpower. The characters have plenty of backup in a firefight, or could call on other soldiers to serve as scouts or guards. Vehicle pool. So every unit base has a few jeeps and trucks, but this trait gives lots as well as one special vehicle. Choose one type of vehicle from the following list every time you take this trait. So you get tanks, hovercraft, luxury cars, or self-propelled artillery. Cool. And then we have the bad traits. So alien threat, there's an ongoing threat near the base. Maybe there are weevils in the sewers nearby, or a Carionite church in the village down the road. The enemy always chooses the worst possible moment to attack. They will come for you when you're already under attack, when your resources are overstretched, and when you're running low on ammo and story points. Dangerous experiments. So side effects of the experiments make life on the base difficult or dangerous all the time. Sometimes they cause added problems. Harsh conditions have no direct game effects, but being caught without proper survival gear can be hazardous to the player's health. Okay, it's a little bit vague for my taste, but at least it's something. We have isolated. It takes a very long time for help to arrive. Could take days or even weeks before unit responds to a distress call from your base. You have a main reactor. So If this trait is taken, the Game Master picks up any number of suitable traits possessed by the base. If the main reactor is damaged or sabotaged, these traits are lost until the reactor is repaired. The main reactor is an obvious target for any attackers, and it is so big and complex it is hard to defend. Interesting. Ongoing missions. So you have a mission to perform, like patrolling the skies of Earth, guarding a rift, conducting research, or hosting diplomatic talks. This mission can interfere with the other adventures by forcing you to split your efforts. Like the Torchwood 3 hub in Cardiff, your base is built on or near a rift in space-time. If you take this trait, this crack in reality sometimes opens up and vomits out strange alien creatures or energy fields. Okay? The rift spits out weirdness and monsters on a regular basis. The rift's energies can also disrupt sensors and communications at inconvenient times. Traitor! There's an enemy working among you. So the GM determines who the traitor is. Could be your superior in the organization or a trusted underling. It could even be one of the PCs. Wow. Okay, there are problems with the chain of command if you take trouble at the top. Missions are regularly made harder by political problems. It's not enough to find the shape-shifting alien land shark. You've got to find the shape-shifting alien land shark without disrupting the local tourist industry. Okay. Unreliable resources. Maybe your vehicles break down or electrical storms regularly disrupt communications. So the effect is to pick one of your good base traits, and that trait is now unreliable. Sometimes it just isn't available. For example, an unreliable mobile base might only be able to move under certain conditions. An unreliable secure base might be mostly secure, but occasionally gaps open in the security perimeter. Well, that's interesting. Wandering civilians. Okay. So your base is not a secure environment and may be located in a very public place or have a lot of visitors. Any crisis or attack on the base will endanger lots of civilians. The characters have to protect these civilians while dealing with the bigger problems. There's a nice example here, building a base. And then we have the Valiant as another example. So the UK contingent were able to construct an aircraft carrier for use in missions. So this is very much like the helicarrier from S.H.I.E.L.D., but, we'll hand-wave that away. So rather than floating in water, it floated in the clouds, a form of aircraft itself. The airship was destroyed by the Daleks when the Earth had been moved across space, but elements were recovered and a replacement was later constructed. Further Valiant-class airships are also under construction. The flying bases are fabulously expensive, but are a first step in establishing a fast response force capable of defending all of Earth against attack from space. So they held aloft by a combination of huge turbofans and anti-grav. 3 interlocking runways provide a landing strip for cargo aircraft, passenger jets, and the ship's own squadron of interceptors, but is also a battleship. She carries multiple anti-aircraft and air-to-ground missile launchers dotted around her hull, but her primary weapon is a heavy laser cannon that was reverse-engineered from a crashed alien ship. With this cannon, the Valiant can engage attacking alien invaders in the air. Awesome. So lots of good traits here. We got Advanced Tech, the turbofans, Advanced Tech with shields, Alien Gadget, the laser, Armory, Database Access, Defense System, Fortified, Holding Cells, Internal Sensors, Landing Pad ×2, Lockdown, Medic Mobile Base, Secure Base. Bad traits, it's Dark Secret, Main Reactor, and Ongoing Mission. We have some information about Unit HQ in the UK. And then we have some info and stats on their vehicles. So we've got Standard Unit Jeep, normally used to ferry soldiers around, Armor 6, hit capacity 14, speed 8. Tanks. There are a few owned by the task force, but there's not that many. They are mainly used for threats that, warrant that kind of power, like giant robots or whatever. Armor 15, hit capacity 21, speed 4. For the main cannon, use rocket launcher stats. Wow, okay. Cargo trucks, armor 7, hit capacity 18, speed 6. Airplanes, for light aircraft, armor 4 hits 10, speed 12. Cargo planes, armor 8 hit 30, speed 12. Jet fighters have armor 9, hit 18, speed 24. Wow. For weapons, they've got 50 caliber machine guns, missiles ×4, or bombs ×4. Cool. Hovercraft, armor 4 hits 12, speed 9. Helicopters, armor 4 hits 10, speed 11 for small helicopter. Military helicopter, armor 15, hit capacity 15, speed 9. Armed with machine guns and missiles, use rocket launchers as detailed on page 94. Alright, so now we have a little sidebar here about how to use skills when dealing with helicopters and aircraft. So if you don't know how to fly a helicopter, for example, the Game Master could decide that you'll get a -4 penalty in trying to fly. So you can still try, but you'll probably have to use story points to make it work. Then we have some info about security clearance. So that's only approved by the base commander, and no sudden visitor will get more than alpha clearance from the gate guard. Unit will want to find out more about the visitor and make sure someone is around to escort them before giving them beta clearance. So there are various levels beyond that, of course. In many cases, beta level clearance is all that is required for any non-unit personnel. Even politicians and higher-ranking visitors rarely get anything higher. Some bases use an 8th level security clearance called theta clearance, which is marked in orange. It's the same as beta clearance, hence the color, but is given to high-ranking visitors who like to feel important and have the ability through their connections or position to make life very difficult for UNIT. It's basically a VIP security pass. All right, and then we have details what the different security levels mean. So if you have, for example, black clearance, ADA, you can go anywhere in any unit base. It's usually awarded only top-level unit staff who need to move freely through the organization. Yeah, and at the beginning we have Alpha, which basically just gets you in the front door. So then we get all the way up to full access to any unit base anywhere. That's pretty cool. Lots of things to give you a sense of, sort of investment in the organization through the base building mechanics and, progression as you sign up, kind of gradually work your way up through gaining more insider knowledge and access to classified documents, for example, here with different levels of clearance. Now we have an example of the uniforms. This is the old unit uniforms. So they were changed in the 80s and 90s to the blue. Before that, they had varying uniforms depending on country. And now in the 21st century, the unit is global. So they've all got a unified look, military stealth look, and a red beret, which has the unit logo as well. So unit produces briefing documents as well for their staff. So here's some various stuff you could include in your game for flavor. So over the years, unit has developed several forms of technology to aid them in their fight against alien invasion. Most of these have been reverse engineered from alien tech recovered during their missions. But unit characters rarely start with a gadget, but they may be issued with gadgets during a mission. So there might be new experimental weapons like laser rifles or salvage bits of alien tech. Typically, they will be issued with a specific piece of tech for a specific problem. So the character given the gadget must spend the requisite number of story points, 1 for a minor gadget, 2 for a major, 4 for a special. These story points are usually refunded when the character returns the gadget or when the gadget is destroyed. If the character doesn't have enough story points to pay for the gadget, then he must either take a temporary bad trait, like distinctive because of the big obvious gadget he's carrying, or unlucky, or add a bad trait to the gadget itself. So here's some example stuff. We've got the alien activity scanner, locates alien technology up to 30 feet away. Project Indigo, special gadget. So this is recovered teleportation technology from the Sontarans condensed into a backpack-sized device. So it can teleport, but only a single person and only to somewhere the user can mentally picture. It takes 24 hours to recharge. All right. Signal jammers, block control signals. The space-time telegraph communicates only with the doctor. We have the translation device, so it will scan words spoken and translate them to be understood by either humans or aliens, depending on setting. The device is evolving as it goes and sometimes translates slightly inaccurately, causing confusion at times, and requires a lengthy sample of dialogue to begin translation computations. We have some new gadget traits as well, so Augment. This is something that improves the character's attributes. A minor augment gives a +1 to 2 attributes, while a major augmentation either gives a +2 to 2 attributes or +3 to 1. The benefits from a gadget can lift a character's attributes to inhuman levels, 7+. Wow, that's pretty cool. Bulky, the gadget is bigger and heavier than it should be. This only applies to gadgets you'd expect to be small. Trying to argue that your flying car is bulky will just make the game master laugh at you, but a sonic screwdriver the size of a tuba is a perfect example of bulky. So this is because, Unit is reverse engineering stuff and is going to be not as efficient as the original high-tech alien design. Control, so these are devices that can control something else like another machine. The minor version works on a particular sort of machine or system, or a particular type of animal. The major version can control people and works like the special trait version of hypnosis. Control only works over a very short distance. If you want to build a mind control machine to rule the world, try adding transmit. Okay. Convert. So the gadget turns something into something else. Might turn rock into mud, lead into gold, poisonous gas into breathable air, and so on. Particularly nasty examples of this trait are the cyber conversion chambers, which convert humans into Cybermen. Disable, so this gadget stops another gadget from working. The minor version means the disable effect only works on one particular gadget and might disable a Dalek force field, for example. The major version is more likely to drain the power from every gadget nearby. The effect's usually temporary, but a one-shot disable may destroy its targets at the game master's whim. Alright. We also have Fragile. The gadget is very breakable. If the character holding the gadget is hit by an attacker has to make any vigorous or violent movement, then something just broke. Hungry, this is a minor or major bad trait, runs through power very quickly. The minor version of this trait means that any yes but or no and results, average successes or dismal failures, means that the battery just ran out. The major version means you need to hook the gadget up to a really big power source, like a power plant or an alien ship's power core, to get the thing even working. Innocuous, this is a good trait. So the minor version means the gadget looks like something perfectly ordinary. The major version builds a perception filter into the gadget, so people just ignore it, except when it's in active use and sort of forget about it afterwards. Cool. Travel, so this can transport all the player characters in some way. So the minor version of this moves in a way that looks cool but can be replicated by present day technology. The major version can jump dimensions, add the vortex trait, and you can even time travel. Slow, okay, so we've already seen this in fact. The minor version means that the delay between activating the gadget and something actually happening is at least 2 minutes. A majorly slow gadget can take hours or days to get going. Zap. It goes zap and makes things explode. The minor version means that the gadget works like your average death ray, inflicting 4/L/L damage on people. Alternatively, it does 4, 8, 12 damage, but also makes things explode and burn. The major version can either hit multiple targets, as long as they're close together, or else is strong enough to blast vehicles or low-flying alien spaceships. So that's what we find on the Valiant, for example. Very cool. Loads of crunch. I like that. So we've got some unit personnel now. This is about how to make your unit characters. So you get 26 character points. I recommend you spend around 18 points on attributes and save the rest for traits. You have to be physically fit and mentally alert. So if you don't have at least a 2 in every single attribute, you won't pass. And really you should have at least a 3 in every attribute. All unit characters must take the major bad trait of obligation, brackets unit. We've gone ahead and added the two character points you get to your character point total already. So that's why they have 26 instead of 24, like in the regular books for normal humans. If you really want, you can drop that obligation down to just a minor bad trait, in which case you must take another minor bad trait like Code of Conduct, Buy the Book, or Dark Secret to compensate. Also, if you ever leave unit without buying that obligation off, then you've got to swap it for another major bad trait. Skill points 18, they're used purely to purchase skills. You can get extra skill points from any leftover character points. And you get story points of 12, like a typical human. You don't spend these during character creation, though purchasing particularly powerful abilities and traits can reduce their maximum, such as being a unit veteran or having experimental equipment. The typical unit team will have a commander in charge of the squad, which will have recommended traits of military rank, voice of authority, code of conduct, obligation, recommended skills of convince, knowledge, strategy and tactics, and marksman. Field engineer, they'll have recommended traits of technically adept, cutting edge tech, resourceful pockets, recommended skills of craft, technology, demolitions, and transport. Medics will have recommended traits of empathic and lucky, recommended skills of athletics, medicine, and survival. Science advisors, see the white lab coat here. They're the lab coats who are protected by the troops. So they will have the traits of boffin, cutting edge tech, technically adept, and insatiable curiosity, with recommended skills of science, technology, and knowledge. Makes sense? You can have scouts as well, so the recommended traits will be face in the crowd, keen senses, sense of direction. Recommended skills, athletics, subterfuge, and survival. Combat specialists, recommended traits, 5 rounds, rapid, and tough. Recommended skills of marksman, fighting, and athletics. Comm specialists, recommended traits, technically adept and brave. Recommended skills, technology, subterfuge, and convince. Driver or pilot would be useful if you're having a base with landing pads or a motor pool. So you'll have recommended traits of hotshot, recommended skills of transport, technology, and craft. You can be a diplomatic officer with the recommended traits of voice of authority and empathy, recommended skills of convince, knowledge, and notice. You can be a sniper with recommended traits of sharpshooter, recommended skills of marksman with specialism in sniper, and subterfuge. Each character in the squad will have their own strengths and specializations. Every character should be useful for more than just fighting. That's important to remember. Alright, so this is where we fit in, I suppose, as player characters. So there's some ideas for how to formulate your team or how to frame them. You could have fresh faces straight out of the training facility. You could have the classic team. So when the Doctor worked for UNIT in the 70s, he worked with a very close team. You could be UNIT freelancers. You have unit training, but are kind of sent across the world to investigate smaller threats and to help dispose of the threat as quickly and quietly as possible, calling in backup if the need should arise. You could also be a crash team. These are sent in to investigate alien sightings and potential threats. Crash stands for critical response and special handling. They'll go in, find the source of the weird stuff, work out what's going on, secure the area, and work out what to do, at least in theory. They're fast response teams, which means they go in first and try to survive until backup arrives. You can also be elite special forces. So they are part of UNIT for years. They're UNIT's best trusted agents, or a dirty dozen, a bunch of untrustworthy renegades who can get the job done no matter what. Or it could be a national oversight team assigned to a particular country or region. They might be the official UNIT liaisons for Kentucky or Belgium or New Zealand. They have to deal not only with aliens, but also with any government or other alien hunting groups in their zone. And then we have, of course, some new traits for UNIT characters. Codebreaker, so it's a minor good trait. You get a +2 bonus to ingenuity and knowledge rolls when trying to decode, decipher, or translate. Crack shot, a minor good trait, so you get +2 to their roll when using marksman for trick shots, like shooting a gun out of an enemy's hand or firing at a Sontaran's probic vent. Cutting edge tech, you have no penalty when operating technology from one technology level above the current home time period. Normally a character from the present day would have a -2 penalty when trying to use something from the 22nd century, but cutting edge eliminates this penalty. Oh, that's cool. 5 rounds rapid, that's a major good trait. It allows characters to shoot earlier. Instead of having to wait until the fighter's part of an extended conflict, they can opt to open fire earlier and use their actions in the runners or doer phases. Talkers still go first. This can be a good thing as the soldiers are able to open fire earlier, but it could also be a disadvantage. Trigger-happy troops rarely leave anyone alive to answer questions or point them in the right direction to disarm that doomsday device. You can be a hotshot, +2 bonus to all transport rolls, get the best performance out of a vehicle. You can have a military rank, which you can take multiple times. You can have a minor trait and be a sergeant, major trait and be a lieutenant, major times 2 to be a captain, major times 3 to be a lieutenant colonel or lieutenant colonel, sorry. You could be a sharpshooter. When aiming, you can aim for 2 actions instead of 1. All right, so you get more bonuses for your shooting. Unit Veteran, it's a special good trait, costs 4 character points. You've been around the unit for many years. You've seen Dalek attack ships, plastic duplicates, time-traveling dinosaurs, dimensional rips, and a madman in a blue box. You've got the benefits of Brave and Voice of Authority, plus you can take either 5 rounds rapid or rank major. Furthermore, your experience with past alien encounters gives you an edge. Once per game, you may describe how you faced a similar situation back in the day to gain the benefits of a story point without having to spend one. Well, that's really cool. So, for example, when punching a Sycorax in the face, you could describe how this is just like that time you punched a Zygon and get an extra 2 dice to your fighting roll as if you'd spent a story point. The downside is you got a bit of history. So take one of the following bad traits: Adversary minor, by the book, dark secret minor, eccentric minor, or phobia minor. They've got some new areas of expertise, so games in theory, so that'll be for solving puzzles, working out equations, breaking encoded transmissions. Knowledge, strategy, and tactics, so that's military strategy. You could be marksman artillery, so it's for those who are experienced in calculating trajectories and ranges for long-range artillery fire. Marksman sniper, and we've seen that already in the description of the sniper squad description. We've got technology demolitions, they're good at blowing stuff up. Military systems, so they're used to radar, sonar, electronic warfare tech, and other complex military technology. Tech security systems, they're good at rewiring, hacking, and code breaking to gain access to electronic locks, CCTV and infrared scanners. Lock picking is a physical lock, so that's still in the field of subterfuge. Okay. So if you need characters in a hurry, they have some archetypes for you. So here's your standard unit private. They've got a 4 in awareness and coordination, 2s in ingenuity and presence, 3s in resolve and strength, 19 points in skills, athletics 2, convince 1, fighting 3, marksman 3, medicine 1, subterfuge 2, survival 3, technology 2, transport 2. They've got traits of friends unit major +2, obligation unit major bad -2, quick reflexes minor +1, 12 story points with 4 character points left to personalize them. You can have a unit private who's experienced, so they have pretty much the same stats except an extra point in resolve. Then they have better fighting, same marksman, better medicine, survival 4, several more traits. So they've got brave and experienced, tough, and 9 story points instead of 12. Scientific advisors, they've got 4 in awareness and ingenuity rather than coordination, and a 3 in resolve and only a 2 in strength. But they have skills in convince, craft, knowledge, medicine, science, tech at 5. Wow. They've also got boffin, cutting edge, resourceful pockets, and technically adept. Pretty cool. Freelance investigators, they've got high awareness, 3s in everything but strength, where there's a 2. They've got athletics, convince, fighting, knowledge, marksman, subterfuge, survival, tech, and transport. They have the traits of indomitable, major, that's pretty cool. Insatiable curiosity, which is a minor bad. Keen senses, lucky, and sense of direction. Cool. We've got medics. They're pretty much following the recommended builds here, but it's nice to see what they recommend for stats as well. So we've got 4 in awareness and ingenuity, 3 in presence and coordination, and 2 in resolve and strength. They have, of course, have medicine 4, knowledge 3, empathic, hypnosis minor, technically adept, and voice of authority. Cool. Gotta get those firebrand soldiers to listen to you. Don't get themselves killed, you know. Engineer, they have awareness of 4, 3 in coordination, ingenuity, and resolve, 2s in presence and strength. They have craft, knowledge, athletics, marksman, science, survival, tech, and transport at 5. Wow. And they've got the hotshot trait and technically adept, plus the usual friends in unit and obligation to unit. We've got the captain at higher rank, 3s in everything, but 4s in presence and resolve. That makes sense. High ranks in convince, marksman, and 3s in survival and tech. She's got a brave trait, major trait in friends for unit. Makes sense. Military rank, major times 2. Quick reflexes, tough, voice of authority, and experienced. Unit brigadier has got a 5 in presence, 4s in coordination, ingenuity, and resolve, and 3s in awareness and strength. Wow. 4 in convince, 4 in marksman, 4 in survival, plus loads of other stuff. Then we've got brave, friends and unit minor, which is different from the captain. Military rank, major times 3. Quick reflexes, tough, voice of authority, and experienced. Wow. Then we have some specific write-ups for unit personnel. So Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, and he has his stat block here. He's got 4s across the board. Convince 4, knowledge 3 with areas of expertise in military tactics, British government, and units. Marksman 3, survival 3, transport 3, and loads of traits. Brave, by the book, 5 rounds rapid, friends, unit, impulsive, indomitable, military rank, brigadier, obligation to unit, tough, voice of authority, experience, and unit veteran. And he has a space-time telegraph to speak to the doctor. That's Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart, and then we have Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge Stewart retired. So he dropped drops in coordination by 1, but gets a 6 in presence and resolve. He's got a convince of 5, fighting 4, knowledge 4. Wow. So he's got slow, though, due to his age. There's running speed reduced to 1 in chases. He's tough, voice of authority, experienced unit veteran, insatiable curiosity, so he's got a new bad trait there. And he doesn't have buy the book anymore, because he's retired. That's interesting. So then we have the third Doctor. So he worked with UNIT directly. Interesting. So he's got, of course, high stats. He's Time Lord, 7 in ingenuity, 5 in coordination, 5 in presence, 6 in resolve, 4 is in awareness and strength. The usual skills you'd expect from a Doctor. Actually, not bad at fighting. Knowledge 4, marksman terrible, science 5, tech 4, transport 3. He's got buff and brave, charming, feel the turn of the universe, friends major, unit, hypnosis minor, indomitable, psychic, quick reflexes, run for your life, technically adept, Time Lord experience times 2, time traveler all, tough, voice of authority, vortex, and then he's got adversaries, major, the master, the Daleks, the Nastine, code of conduct, distinctive, eccentric, insatiable curiosity, obsession, pursuit of knowledge. Okay, a lot of stuff. We got Liz Shaw. So her scientific brilliance first attracted the attention of Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart when he was looking for an advisor for the relatively new formed unit. So she's got coordination and ingenuity and resolve at 4, 3s in awareness and presence, and a 2 in strength. She's got traits attractive, boffin, friends unit, indomitable, technically adept, obligation to unit, of course, and unadventurous, minor bad. All right, we've got Joe Grant. So originally assigned to assist the Doctor, she developed a strong bond. He became the father figure she never had. So she has traits attractive, brave, charming, clumsy, friends unit, obligation unit major, run for your life, and screamer. Science 0, so she's definitely not a boffin type, but she does have 4 in presence and resolve. That's pretty good. Pretty brave for a companion. Sergeant Brenton, one of the most reliable NCOs in unit. He has 4s across the board except ingenuity and presence. Fighting 3, marksman 4, subterfuge 3, transport 3. There's major skills. Brave, charming, crack shot, experienced, friends with unit, impulsive, sergeant, obligation unit major, of course, and tough. Not bad. So now we're in the unit area. We got K9, the dog. Gotta love him. Sarah Jane Smith. She was an investigative journalist, posed a threat to expose UNIT's true activities to the world, and yet she became a good close friend to the Doctor. This threat lessened. Alright, awareness and resolve at 4, 3s elsewhere except strength. Fighting 2, knowledge 3, subterfuge 3, survival 2, tech 2, transport 2. She's attractive, brave, friends with the unit, insatiable curiosity, run for your life, and screamer. Cool. We've got Mike Yates, efficient and calm under fire with an upper crust attitude to the service. So he's got resolve at 4, 3s elsewhere except 2 in coordination. He's good with fighting. He's got knowledge with areas of expertise in military tactics and unit. Marksman 2, so not a great marksman actually. Technology 3, he's brave, friends with the unit, charming, hotshot, military rank, captain, obligation to unit, and voice of authority. But Harry Sullivan. The Doctor always considered Harry Sullivan to be a bit of an imbecile. Seconded to unit from the Navy, Harry was a Doctor for unit at the time the Doctor returned to unit during his regeneration into his 4th incarnation. So he's got athletics 2 with expertise in cricket, convince 1, fighting 3, knowledge 1 with an area of expertise in the Navy, marksman 3, medicine 4. He's brave but clumsy. He's a face in the crowd, so he blends in well. Friends with the unit. He's lucky. He's got an obligation to unit, of course. He's got tough and a voice of authority. Not bad. All right. We got Colonel Crichton, who replaced Lethbridge Stewart as head of the UK contingent in 1976. So after Lethbridge Stewart's retirement, we ended up with this guy. He's got 4s in awareness, ingenuity, and resolve, 3s elsewhere. His main skills, what do we got? Knowledge 3, areas of expertise, unit, British government. The rest are 1s and 2s, except for convince. He's got traits by the book, friends, unit, military rank colonel, obsession with recognition, quick reflexes, voice of authority, and an obligation to unit. We've got Brigadier Bambera, who succeeded Brigadier Crichton to command unit in the UK, becoming the youngest brigadier in unit's history. Became embroiled in a war from another dimension while escorting a nuclear warhead convoy to Lake Vortigern. Okay. She's got 4s and 5s across the board. Wow. 5 in resolve. Athletics 3, convince 3, fighting 4, knowledge 3, with areas of expertise in military tactics and unit. Marksman 4, that's good as well. Got loads of traits. Brave by the book, 5 rounds rapid, friends with unit, hotshot, indomitable, military rank brigadier, obligation unit, quick reflexes, tough, voice of authority, and unit veteran. But she still has 12 story points despite being a veteran. That's interesting. Major Richard Blake, the commander of units London and headquarters under the Tower of London. So 4s across the board, except for ingenuity. Major skill is transport, 4. Then he's got 3s in athletics, convince, fighting, marksman, and survival. Brave, military rank major, friends and obligation to unit, tough, and unit veteran. Got Martha Jones over here. So she traveled with a doctor, and then she ended up enrolling in unit. So she's got 4s in resolve and ingenuity, 3s elsewhere, and a 2 in strength. Marksman is only 2, I guess from her time with the doctor. Medicine, though, is 4. Science, 3. Tech, 4. That was pretty good. She's got attractive, brave, code of conduct, friends with unit, and tough. She doesn't have an obligation to unit. That's interesting. And she's got a superphone gadget. Cool. Then we have Colonel Mace. So following unit's rebranding, he was given full command of the UK branch. He's got 4s in awareness, resolve, and presence, and 3s elsewhere. Major skills are athletics, convince, fighting, marksman, brave by the book, friends and obligation to unit, military rank colonel, voice of authority. Private Ross Jenkins, here we see the new unit 21st century look in full effect. Actually, the same picture as earlier in the book, which is slightly disappointing. He's got 3s and 2s except for a 4 in strength. Marksman 2, survival 3, so not particularly impressive, but he's a private, so he's got a ways to go. He does look a little bit distressed in his mugshot there. He's brave though, apparently. Friends with the unit, obligation to unit, tough, and unlucky. Poor guy. Lieutenant General Sanchez, the American branch of unit from the 82nd Airborne Division. He's got a 5 in presence, pretty good. 4s elsewhere, except a 2 in ingenuity and a 3 in strength. Got fighting 4, knowledge 3, with areas of expertise in unit and military tactics. Marksman 4, that's good. Subterfuge 3, survival 4, tech 4, transport 4. Wow, he's pretty good. Brave by the book, friends and obligation to unit, military rank, lieutenant general, quick reflexes, tough, voice of authority. Then we got Captain Arisa Magambo. She's got 4s in awareness and presence, a 5 in resolve. She's got knowledge 2, but with areas of expertise in unit military tactics. Marksman 3, otherwise not too impressive skills-wise. She does have brave by the book, 5 rounds rapid, and the voice of authority, along with the usual unit stuff. Professor Malcolm Taylor. That's a freaky face there. He's got knowledge 4, science 4, tech 4. Very good. Stats are 3s and 2s except for ingenuity at 5, which is great. Traits of boffin, clumsy, eccentric. Makes sense. Friends with unit, insatiable curiosity, obligation to unit, sociable pockets, and technically adept. And he has a signal jammer gadget. Cool. Alright, now we get into new combat rules. Cool. So unlike your typical adventures, the unit-based campaign relies heavily on military tactics and solutions. What that means is that things explode, surgical strikes are performed, people get killed, and yes, friends, guns are fired a lot. So what follows is some expanded rules to help in running games with firearms. It means that the combat system is a little more crunchy than before, so basically, use as you see fit. So in a normal Doctor Who game, firearms are a rarity. The Doctor doesn't like to shoot, neither do most companions. Usually it's the bad guy shooting. So here we're not going to go into the nuts and bolts, it says. There's not a lot of difference between, gun calibers and stuff. Guns are broken into general categories, and they have a stat called a range increment. So pistols have range increments of 5, 10, 20, meaning 5 meters is short range, 10 is medium range, and 20 is long range. Weapons can generally fire a maximum distance up to twice their maximum range, after which it's difficult enough to hit that it is pointless to check for success. For each range increment, a gun suffers a cumulative -2 to hit its target, plus an additional -2 beyond its long range. Some guns impose a penalty to your dice roll if you try to fire more than once per round due to recoil. This is in addition to the penalty for making more than one action in a round. Okay, so then we have our subcategories. We've got pistols. All pistols have range increments of 5, 10, 20. Got some different types. So holdout pistols that are tiny ones. Do very little damage but no recoil. Go from 1 to 7 to 15 shots and are generally double action. So the gun can be fired as many times as the trigger can be pulled. The character can empty the weapon in a single round if he or she chooses, but you get huge malices for that. We've got small pistols, any snub-nosed weapons such as American Saturday Night Special or snub-nosed police revolver. Limited to 6 or 7 shots and have light recoil. Normal damage can be fired multiple times in a round, with each additional shot imparting a -1 cumulative penalty from recoil. Got medium pistols, holding 10 to 15 rounds, can be fired multiple times, but each additional shot after the first imparts a -2 penalty from recoil. We have large pistols, deals higher damage with additional shots imparting -3 from recoil. And then the hand cannons. They have 6 to 7 rounds, they deal a lot of damage with additional shots imparting -4 cumulative penalties from recoil. The recoil from these enormous pistols is enough to make you black out for a split second. These guns may be fired a maximum of twice per round. Alright, then we have shotguns and rifles. So shotguns, you can use slugs, dealing high damage but a -1 to hit. Shotguns firing buckshot gain +1 to hit but deal less damage. They can be fired a maximum of twice per round and have pistol range increments. Rifles have range increments of 25, 50, 150. Okay. Rifles, these are hunting rifles, bolt action, pump action, or lever action. 2 to 8 rounds, fire a maximum of 3 times per round. Each attack gets a cumulative -3 penalty for recoil. Assault rifle, so they can fire in burst mode, 3 bullets in rapid succession. You can fire a single aim shot in semi-automatic mode. So if you fire in burst mode, a success means you hit once, a good means you hit twice, and fantastic means you hit with all 3 bullets, each doing the normal good level of damage. A second or third burst can be attempted, but each suffers a cumulative -4 penalty. In full auto mode, the wielder cannot aim. He simply selects an area of up to 90 degrees arc in his line of vision and showers it with bullets. He then makes a standard attack roll. Everyone in the area gets a chance to dive for cover with a +2 bonus to the roll. If anyone fails to dodge into cover, then they take damage as usual, depending on the severity of their failure. Firing full auto takes the entire round. Affecting a 45-degree arc uses half a clip of ammunition, and affecting a 90-degree arc uses the entire clip. The clip usually contains anywhere from 10 to 100 rounds. Wow. Then we've got machine guns. These are designed for mass carnage. They have range increments equal to twice that of rifles. These are large and usually mounted on tripods or bipods and cannot be carried. Unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, apparently. Submachine guns, somewhere between pistols and assault rifles. They only fire fully automatic like assault rifles, but have the range of pistols. They hold clips of 10 to 50 rounds. That's sniper rifles. They have a very long range and deliver incredibly high amounts of damage. Cool. All right, then we have a summary of weapon ranges, ammunition, and damages. Okay, cool. So range increments for everything up to slug shotguns. We've got 5, 10, 20 for all the different pistols and the shotgun. Shotgun with buckshot is 3, 6, 12, which is a bit too small for my liking. Then we've got ammunition ranges, damage. The large pistols and hand cannons can do quite a bit, depending on the success level. Shotgun's about equivalent to a hand cannon. Yeah, it is. They misspelled rifle, but that's okay. No, they did twice, in fact. So then they have the recoil effects as well. That's useful. Assault rifles, machine guns at very long range and do a lot of damage. Submachine guns, they have a pistol firing range but can do full auto. And our sniper rifles with a huge range and very big damage, 4, 8, or 12. Cool. And then we have rules for grenades. All right. So a typical grenade has a range increment of 2, 5, 7. Everything within 1 meter takes the fantastic result damage. Within 3 meters takes good result damage. And up to 5 meters takes success result damage. Outside this range, the target may still be stunned, but they do not take physical injury. I think that's a bit weak, but probably for, cinematic reasons. A real-world grenade has a kill radius of like 15 meters or something. I mean, at a minimum, probably more than that. The result also indicates how close the grenade is to where it was intended to land. So if you don't get a fantastic result, the grenade is landed a distance away and depends on the range increment. So if you only get a success when throwing a grenade, it means the grenade lands and explodes 5 meters away from the target. So to determine where the grenade actually goes, roll a die. This indicates whether the grenade is thrown long or short, off to one side or another. On a roll of 1, it's short. On a 2 or 3, it's off to the left. 4 or 5 to the right. And on a 6, overshot and behind the target. Okay, and then use a range increment again to work out how far it's gone. And then give some examples about, you could really miss quite a bit with the scatter rules. But these rules don't apply to planted explosives like bombs or C4s that are attached. Grenades, bombs, these are placed somewhere. Larger explosives increase the damage and range proportionally. Twice as much explosive, double the damage and range. The engineer has to make an ingenuity and tech roll to set a timer or remote detonator. Failure usually means the bomb fails to explode. Then we have rocket launchers. They're the best defense against Cybermen. The most common rocket launcher is light and disposable, a simple fire and forget system that's manually aimed. More advanced systems are available with laser guidance or heat-seeking capabilities, but these are less portable and rarely used by units. They have 2 range increment stats, one for the actual range for firing the rocket and another for the blast of the explosion. And then we have their stats up here. So, wow, look at the damage. 9, 18, 27 for the rocket. My God. And then we have their blast ranges here and their range increments for the actual launcher. Then we have the bombs, damage 10, 20, 30. Holy moly. And grenades, 8, 16, 24. Wow. So, explosives are devastating. Mass battles, got a picture of the Valiant shooting at something. That's pretty cool. So we've got simple mass battle rules. All battles are conflicts where the enemies gain or lose ground. The opposing sides fight until one side is either forced to retreat or is defeated. This can take place over a protracted period, usually while the player characters are doing something more important, like rescuing civilians, coming up with a vital piece of technology that could stop the fighting, or simply escaping from their captors. Okay, so here we have 2 different ways to run a mass battle. This is the simple mass battle rules. So you take each side as a whole and they battle it out for superiority. So you work out their offense, traits, their skills, and modifiers from weapon damage, armor, relative numbers, vehicle speed, commander reputation, and they affect these aspects of each side's stats. Okay, So they get offense, defense, size, mobility, and morale. And then you will get modifiers for the larger sides is listed here. And then we have some examples. So the Centaurans, they get coordination 4 plus marksman 5 plus lethal rifle 12 equals 21 offense. We're to units, coordination 4 plus marksman 3 plus rifle 6 is 13. Then we have equal defenses for both. The Centaurans on the smaller side, unit has more numbers, so they get plus 4 for size. Mobility, they get 6 for the Centaurans, and the unit has a Jeep, which gives them 8. Morale, they have resolve of 6 plus commander Strax of 2 gets 8. The unit has resolve 3 plus brave 2 plus the brigadier at 4 gives them 9. Alright, then you do a simple battle sequence. So you jockey for position. So you make an opposed roll using mobility. The side that wins can either get a bonus to their offense or defense based on the result, according to this table. So that means you got the higher ground, dug into defensive positions, or charged the enemy. Or you can permanently reduce the opponent's mobility bonus based on the result. So this could be closing distance between the forces, forcing flying forces to land, drawing vehicles into boggy ground, or taking cover. Then you do combat, so the side with the highest offense goes first. Rolling 2 dice is normal and adding their offense. Any size modifier if they're a larger force. The other side resists with their defense just like a normal conflict and make a note of who wins. The defending side gets to retaliate, rolling 2 dice and using their offense against the first side's defense. Again, make a note of who wins. Okay, so you exchange fire. Look at the results of the 2 conflicts. If both sides lost, the battle remains at the current position on the grid. If one side won and the other failed to win in their offensive phase, the winners move the battle 1 step closer to their goal. If both sides won, then the side with the higher margin moves the battle on the grid. Both sides win with the same margin of success, then the battle doesn't move. Cool. Staying in the fight. If a side loses a conflict and is forced back, the game master may choose to ask the losing side to roll 2 dice and add the morale rating. The difficulty of the roll is 9, plus 1 for every stage they've been pushed back, and add the opponent's size rating if they are larger. If they fail the roll, they may withdraw completely from the fight, choosing to run and save themselves rather than remain in a futile fight. And I like that. Do it again. So basically keep going unless somebody runs away. The actions of player characters could change the nature of a battle, and that would be reflected in the numbers. For example, if one side breaks out heavier weapons, like rocket launchers, that could boost their offense. Retreating into cramped tunnels might force the attackers to give up their vehicles, dropping their mobility. A stirring speech might temporarily boost morale. That's pretty cool. So that's ways that characters could have an effect on a mass battle by digging into a cache of better weapons, giving advice on, where to move back and restrict enemy mobility, or providing that stirring speech to raise morale. Then we have advanced mass battles. So here we have a bunch of squads on a battle grid. So you go across the battle grid 1 column at a time, make the necessary offense and defense rolls, working out if the squad remains at a stalemate, advances, or forced to surrender ground. Some may gain ground, some retreat, some may lose, and some may defeat their direct opponent. Once every squad has had a round, start over. If a column's battle is over, the losing squad is removed from the battle, and the victor's troops can be deployed to aid in another part of the battle. Cooperation rules apply, and the new troops add +2 to rolls of those they are aiding if appropriate. The side that loses a squad makes morale rolls for all the remaining squads. Those failing may flee, whereas those succeeding may be even more determined to win. Wow, cool. Special circumstances. So if a base is under siege, they give some examples of what you would have for a near future moon base. So you would have command, moon base corridors, hydroponic dome, airlocks, and lunar surface as kind of the list of locations within the base that people are trying to break through, and each of those would have a very defense bonus. The defenders lose, the attackers force them out of the command section, which is the last section, basically the heart of the base. Another common situation is where the defenders have to stall the enemy long enough for the doctor to come up with some technological wonder. In these battles, only half the normal grid is used. As long as the defenders can stay above defeat for the required number of rounds, they win. Alright, so you just have to hold the ground long enough for the doctor to do what he needs to do. Characters and heroes are not part of any squad, instead they act independently. Most of the time they'll be doing their own thing, but they might get involved or might want to participate. So a character's actions in the fight can give a +1 or +3 bonus to an army or squad's offense, defense, mobility, or morale. So you can weave the characters into the narrative, perhaps giving the characters a list of possible actions, maybe a duel with key enemy leaders, capture enemy vehicles or weapons, bring a vital message, sabotage or repair a vital piece of equipment, rescue a downed comrade, lead a desperate counterattack, or discover a key weakness of the enemy force. Being in the middle of the battlefield is dangerous, though. Every round, roll a die. On a 1, the character is targeted by an enemy soldier and has to defeat or escape this attacker. On a 2 to 3, the character risks being hit by enemy fire. The game master should make a single regular attack against the character, representing the danger of stray fire or enemy snipers. Of course, you can use the story points to swing the course of the fight in their favor or to avoid taking a nasty hit, but only active characters can spend story points, but they can be used for any part of the fight that the character can feasibly influence. Cool. So then we have some details of containment and cover-up. So part of UNIT's mandate is cover up alien attacks and encounters. Containment will start with things like shutting down roads and trains and other routes into the affected area, banning flights over the area, getting a news blackout going, shutdown of local phone networks, sort of staying indoor orders, And UNIT can effectively order martial law if the situation warrants. Then you will have cover stories you need to come up with. So convince people to leave or stay indoors and stop people from entering the area to try and minimize the chance somebody sees what's really happening. Provided a plausible cause for any deaths, injuries, or property damage. Justify the involvement of the military. Discredit any witnesses who talk about little gray men or things with too many teeth. Stop anyone from collecting items from the scene, and stop anyone from investigating afterwards. Most cover stories involve gas leaks, toxic spills, accidents with chemicals, or disease outbreaks. Anything that's scary, icky, and boring is perfect. Then you have the cleanup. So you'll need to deal with survivors requiring medical treatment, psychological therapy. You have to deal with alien artifacts or remains collected for safe storage and later analysis. Any evidence of the attack is then destroyed. So you might need to use a simple bulldozer or more elaborate methods. Victims who are hit by alien energy weapons or infested with extraterrestrial fungi are mind-controlled, partially converted into Cybermen. Only UNIT can help those people. Task Force has hospitals that specialize in unusual cases. Player characters and cover-ups. While the first priority of the player characters in any UNIT mission is defend the Earth, they may also be called upon to cover up the encounter, of course. And then we have exposure, so that's the degree to which awareness of the alien encounter reaches the public. It's measured in points. If the characters have no exposure points, the incursion is completely contained and no one ever finds out about it. Lots of exposure points means news of the alien attack gets out, and that can cause problems for UNIT in the future. So sources of exposure include witnesses. So leaving witnesses to talk to the press is worth 1 to 5 exposure points. A witness who had direct contact with the alien invaders is worth 5 points, for example. Somebody who barely remembers what happens but knows something weird happened might be 1 point. Victims can be another source of points from 1 to 3. So bodies that show up torn apart, blasted by alien weapons, unexplained deaths. Physical evidence like lights in the sky, strange footprints, or mysterious radiation is 1 point. Alien gadgets or artifacts worth up to 5 points. Incontrovertible evidence like a live alien can be worth 10 or more points. But general physical evidence worth 1 to 5. Photographs and video. Not every video can be dismissed as special effect, although today that's increasingly the case with deep learning and so on. This book was written well before that. Visual evidence is worth 1 to 5 exposure points. I'd probably tune that down, given that deepfake is a thing now. Investigators, so these are, crusading reporters, meddling kids, blah, blah, blah. If an investigator gets his hands on any form of exposure, the exposure points for that item are tripled. Oh my god. Public exposure, so a giant snowflake over London, aliens invading across the world, the whole planet abducted by the Daleks, something are too big to hide and there's no way to cover them up. So that's worth 10 or more exposure points. So covering up, give you advice on how to cover up each of these. Then you can get a good cover story going. You can reduce all forms of exposure, okay? But it depends on the level of success. So either the game master will decide the level of success, or one of the characters rolling presence plus convince against the difficulty set by the game master, depending on how clever the cover story is, will determine the results. So the level of success will go anywhere from disastrous to fantastic, of course. Fantastic means everyone believes the cover story unless they got direct evidence, whereas success means plausible. Most people accept it, but there's a sizable group on the fringe who argue that it's a lie. Interesting. Characters can stop investigators from tripling the exposure by stealing, destroying, or discrediting any information the investigators have obtained. No damage control is possible with public exposure. Okay. So assessing exposure, you roll 2 dice, add the exposure score, then check the media interest table. So you roll plus evidence, and then you get, it's a situation out of control. If it's 2 to 3, no, and everyone gets a bonus story point. 4 to 8, no, any accumulated exposure points go away. 9 to 11, no, but someone's paying attention, and you keep the exposure score. 12 to 15, yes, but it's not obvious. 16 to 20, yes-ish, panic. 21 plus, yes, and it's mass panic. Yikes. All right, then we have some hot tips on game mastering UNIT. So it's a very different feel and vibe from a Doctor Who plus Companions campaign, obviously. As they noted, it's more of a militaristic campaign. You're staying on Earth, pretty much. You're a band of brothers with loyalties to each other and loyalty to Earth and loyalty to UNIT. You've also got loyalty to your family. These are people that you live with when you're not out there dealing with horrible, gribbly monsters, and you fight to protect them, basically. So you want to put them in situations where their loyalties are challenged, or maybe they have to choose between different types of loyalty. The other major theme is going to be morality. So, you might receive orders that you don't agree with. Do you follow them or do you not follow them? It's always a difficult choice to make. And fear and paranoia, of course, is a good theme. You get that in the Doctor Who games as well. Unfortunately, the only aliens you get to meet as a UNIT soldier are the bad ones. Basically, the ones trying to eat you or take over the world. So the universe seems like a dark void full of aliens hell-bent on invasion. But also space itself creates terror and confusion. And when you leave the confines of Earth, the universe becomes a lot more abstract. And also the unit has a responsibility to uphold the defense of Earth, so they can't just run back to the TARDIS and fly off. If they're losing, there's no sofas to hide behind. Show the players the stakes, remind them that if they fail, humanity may be doomed. Make them make the hard decisions. Cool. Bravery is also a theme. They have to stand firm even against highly superior advanced opponents from other worlds or other space-times even. And you can also challenge bravery as a GM, killing off some of the unit troops. You can show that the enemy is dangerous, build up the personalities of the other unit staff before killing them so that you really feel it. They didn't just disintegrate some random corporal, they just killed Bob, the Welsh ping pong enthusiast whose uncle got turned into a Cyberman at Canary Wharf. Then we have some hot tips for Soldiers' Tales. Unit members also make excellent companions for a Time Lord. So a doctor might recruit a promising unit soldier as a companion, like Harry Sullivan or Martha Jones. During the Time War, the Time Lords could recruit or even just time scoop the best soldiers from across the universe to help them battle the Daleks. You could have a Time Lord. If most of your group wants to be part of a unit, then you can make a unit the center of the campaign rather than a TARDIS. There's scope for a wider variety of characters in a unit campaign. There's reasonably large scientific and medical arms as well as soldiers and officers. There are also support and ancillary staff. You never know what abilities might prove useful against alien invaders. You can also be defending the Earth, vast battles, mass battles, run a series of invasions, or maybe you're cut off and trapped behind enemy lines and have to fight your way out. Or maybe you have to deal with a covert invasion where, human politicians are being replaced by clones or robots or whatever. You could also be an intelligence task force, watching an alien to see if they're peaceful or engaged in a plot. Partnership with local alien intelligence forces like Torchwood. You can mix in mundane plots from time to time, like drug smugglers or arms dealers. It could be a commando force, so you're dumped into hostile territory with a small contingent of scientists, maybe to stop a rogue nation from using experimental alien tech or something like that. You could be off-world explorers with long-range sensors, looking out into space to see what future threats might be. They might want to just look on the other side of a rift to make sure it poses no threat, or they might visit some allies of UNIT who are in fact alien, and who might need help from UNIT sometimes. You can also be on a protective detail, so maybe you have to escort a diplomat. You could also even be protecting certain aliens, depending if they are allies. UNIT personnel are often required as bodyguards or even escorts for all manner of people. You could also be prison warders. Earth is already prison to numerous alien races like the Silurians and the Arachnos. So an alien might land on Earth and request asylum. So you'll need to protect them and extract information, see whether they're for real or not. You might need to recover artifacts. Maybe you'll need to do some research into the forefront of alien tech, which has led to cool stuff before, like Valiant and whatnot. Maybe it's a first contact situation. You've got a new alien race, or even maybe you're trying to get involved in some kind of alien conflict. So trying to broker a peace between two warring alien factions. Maybe you're trying to rescue somebody from a threat. You could have, for example, the character's base taken over by hostile aliens. You have to break to your own base, bypass your own defenses, and find a way to free your companions from the monster's control. That's pretty cool. You might change the timeline as well, go back to the UNIT era, or you could be working in the scientific arm. So this will be working on reverse engineering alien tech, dealing with spaceflight and weapons, working on astronomy like mapping space or the galactic community, looking through rifts, black holes, and wormholes and stuff, learning about culture and languages from other xeno life forms. You could be doing bioengineering, so studying the biology of alien creatures. Then we have the mouse trappers. So they're charged with constructing weapons, defenses, and prisons that make use of specific qualities of races that UNIT has encountered. In general, the mouse trappers are among the most brilliant and also most eccentric of all UNIT scientists. And then we have some wonderful random tables, crisis generator. So what's the name of the adventure? A good title might be exciting. Okay, so you could get, say, threatening phrase, the Green Death, fury from the deep. Location, could be underground, at a factory, at a university, London, isolated base, character's base, on another planet, another time, another dimension. What's the mission? Mysterious orders, strange signals, attack, a new breakthrough, people are missing, there's a mystery going on, investigate a death, gathering intelligence, unrelated business, unit operation, offensive against alien invaders, or sent by the doctor. Okay. What's the threat? Contagion, natural disaster, ongoing activity, mind control, aliens building an army, serial killer of some kind, something is harvesting resources, the enemy are attacking a base or a settlement, the enemy are looking for something like a relic or a particular person. Impending doom, disaster is coming, or there's a doomsday device, a reality warp. The enemy's efforts involve time travel, dimensional shifts, and other weirdness. Who's the enemy? New Earth species, a new alien species that are invading. Zygons or Slitheen or other shapeshifters, human madmen like an insane scientist, human conspiracy possibly allied with aliens, human corporation, Centaurans, Rutans or other militaristic monsters, Cybermen or Autons or other faceless monsters, Silurians or Carrionites or other creatures from the distant past, or Daleks, exterminate! What's their master plan? World domination, ultimate power, survival, profit, revenge? March toward victory. This is only part of a larger grand plan. And then complications. So maybe you have other investigators getting in the way. The enemy has a race of servants. Some key item or one of your gadgets doesn't work. There's environmental danger, like you're in the middle of the Arctic or Antarctic. There are civilians here who have to be rescued and protected. There's dissent. So some characters or others disagree with what you're doing. There's a traitor. Someone on the character side working for the enemy. There's a side effect, like toxic fumes or strange energy emissions from whatever the enemy is doing. There's a third-party villain. So 2 or more factions within the enemy working at cross purposes. There's a dark secret. One of the characters or an ally has a connection to what's going on. There's a twist. It's all a setup. Roll on the master plan table to find out what the real plan is. And then populating your adventures. So you'll need officers, reserves, and logistics, non-military personnel. And there's some special mention of women in UNIT. That's obviously changed for the better over time. Many UNIT doctors are women, as are most of the nursing staff, but increasingly they appear in other roles as well. Then we have difficulties of dealing with rank. So NPC officers, you run into the same issues as having a doctor, I guess, if you're trying to have a proper unit structure. So it may be better to be freelancers or one of the other possible campaign frames. You could be all officers, which each command a team. That could be interesting. That's troop style play, which is pretty cool. You can be a little bit of metagaming. So you assume the orders are coming from whichever character is the ranking officer. However, the players discuss the plan together. You then assume that the ranking character orders all the others to carry out the plan. That's a good way to do it, actually, and that works well with the captains in Star Trek games, for example. The captain is played by somebody, but the plan the captain finally orders everyone to do is one that the player characters agree on sort of out of character beforehand. So I think that works really well, and that's the right sort of feel. The captain still gets to feel the rush of command, but they know they're doing something that the group agrees with. Then you could keep the hierarchy. Then you have how scientists fit into the hierarchy. So scientists don't have a military rank, so they can't directly be ordered around, but it also means that they're not really involved in or have any say in what's going on. Not part of the system as such. The same to do with politicians, for example. They have clout in the real world, but UNIT doesn't really care. And now finally we have our sample adventures. I'll just flip through these quickly. I'll give the summary. So, Prison of the Slavers, it's a mix of specialities set in present-day England, but can easily be transported to any other part of the world. The adventure begins when UNIT detects a cryptic signal coming from a small English town and sends the characters to investigate. The final part of the game is a huge pitched battle between UNIT and the slaver forces, where the characters must act swiftly to protect catastrophe. Cool. Alright, so, there's quite a bit. There's a dungeon, there's castles, there's prisons. It seems a nice sample of the new mechanics introduced in the book, which is very cool. We got a picture of the Valiant up there. Hope they get involved. Oh, yeah, they do. Cool. Love that. Alright. What's this now? Mind the Gap. Okay, this is the other adventure. It's an adventure for a unit team with a mix of specialities and specifically designed to be a campaign kickoff adventure for a group of player characters who make up a unit crash team. So that's the kind of first response team. Set in present-day England, but can easily be transported to any other part of the world that features an underground rail system. The adventure begins when an entire trainload of passengers goes missing in between London tube stations, and UNIT sends the characters to investigate. The final part of the game takes place in the Void Between Universes, where the crash team must rescue the train passengers, defeat a group of Cybermen, and close the rift that threatens to tear apart the fabric of space-time. Well, that sounds awesome. I'm well up for that. All right. We've got David Tennant here, so maybe he's getting involved. We've got rifts. We've got cyber zombies, degraded cybermen, void ship cyber leaders, void ships and hazards thereof. And we got some further adventure seeds. Cool. There's a load of those as well. Diplomatic stuff, technological development, stuff involving the Master, which is always scary. Revenge of the Green Death, so attacking plants. Yeah, we've got automated probes, artificial structures, and Silurians. Then we've got some squad cards, help keep track of your squads for mass battles. That's pretty useful. And that's it. So there you are. I spent a lot more time on this than I thought, and in fact, probably about as much as the base set when you take into account everything. But that's because there's a lot of crunch and mechanics in here, a lot of great ideas as well for running new types of campaigns in the Doctor Who universe. So I have to say I strongly recommend this, especially if the standard Doctor Who campaign frame is a little bit tough for you. There's a lot of interesting ways to frame a unit campaign, but it's also a very different focus. It's more militarized, it's more hierarchical, it's less of that sort of wild and crazy timey-wimey business of the Doctor Who plus companions approach. So make sure that your group is down for that. But I think it's a really good way to take a look at a different part of the Doctor Who reality. You'll still have encounters with the Doctor very possibly. So your characters can feel connected to the Doctor Who universe, face similar kinds of threats, but from a very different point of view, where you're sort of hacking together alien tech and you don't have a TARDIS to run off to. Basically, you're already the Earth's line of defense and only line of defense. And I love that you can make bases and have them matter and do mass battles to, protect them or invade them. Very, very cool. I love base building mechanics in games, as I said. So yeah, that was great. First impressions, I definitely would recommend this. I think even if you don't want to run a unit campaign, having this background info and all of these NPCs from unit that you could involve in the game is really fantastic. Definitely it's helpful for me, who knows very little about the unit era of the actual show, and to be able to have like the Doctor have allies on the planet who communicate with him and have some degree of proficiency in fighting and dealing with invasions is definitely key to some, having some epic big invasion storylines. So I would call this a crucial supplement from what I've seen so far. So definitely pick one up if you can find it. I got it nice and cheap off eBay in perfect condition, so shouldn't be hard for you to find. And for now, that's it. Hope you enjoyed part 2 of our look at the world of Doctor Who over the last 60 years and its manifestation in RPG form. Next time, we'll take a look at some more supplements, in particular the Doctor's source books. So look forward to that. Take care, and see you all in the next video and in the comment section below. All right, bye-bye.